Like, comment, and subscribe to J New Orleans.
Okay, just getting right into it. The definition of scam is a fraudulent or excuse me, a fraudulent or deceptive act or operation. It can also be used as a verb, scammed, scamming, scams, to deceive and defraud, to obtain something by a scam. So that means that it could be pretty much anything done to get you to do something or to give away something. And now we can get right into how basically no matter where you see scams, they may be different things, different reasons, but they all have a connection, and it's usually the method of how a person is scammed that is the connection. And that's why when people look at scams, they may think of scams in one manner and think that is only one way. Like something sounds too good to be true, that's the only way a scam will come to you, or that if something is questionable, that means that it's a scam, and sometimes that's not the case. You ever notice how scams don't feel like scams until it's way too late? Like everything makes sense at first. The website looks clean, the deal looks perfect, the confirmation email hits your inbox like a warm hug. And for a moment, you feel like you won. You beat the system. You got the golden ticket, the deal, the opportunity. Then reality taps in and asks you, "So where are you sleeping tonight?" Because now you're in a whole different city with no hotel, no ticket, no refund, and no explanation that doesn't make you feel a little stupid. But here's the truth: you weren't stupid, you were targeted. And actually, they had a situation like that one year for Essence where multiple people, I don't even remember the number, but it was a lot of people that went through this false travel agency that was supposed to book everything, and the people had to book their own flights. So when a whole bunch of people arrived to New Orleans for Essence, when they went to go check in at their hotels from them long flights, y'all know the airport is a mud, no matter what city it is. Shout out to wheelchair assistance. But them people made it to their hotel and couldn't even check in because the reservations were not real. And then when all of the people were trying to contact the travel agency, the people ran off on the plug. Like they really ghosted all of these people. So it's like you may think one or two people were foolish or three or four people may be brainwashed, but when it comes to hundreds of people being under the same scam, it's insane. And it happens more often. And see, the thing that scammers benefit from is shame. And that's a connection to my other videos. Shame is powerful to your enemies. Shame is powerful to people that prey on you, because shame is something that makes you so weak on the inside and so insecure on the inside that if a person is able to leverage that, you will willingly do anything, because shame and the ego, they're married together. People ego strikes to actually turn down the inner fires of shame. That's why whenever people may say or do something to a person, or if a person feels like someone outdid them with money, fashion, or just attention, they got to go out their way. But back to the scamming and shame thing. And with shame, it keeps people from speaking up. So it may be like, I know in New Orleans right now, there's a real estate scam going on right now. And the people get a lot of clients. And I see the people actually go through with the real estate process and end up in the homes, which the homes usually all they do is paint the outside, paint over anything on the inside, do a few electronic upgrades, like upgrade the ceiling fan and things that if a person is not paying attention, it's gonna make you not pay attention to the fact that everything else isn't renovated. And they also, what they do is they purposely show people the homes before renovation, because the compare and contrast usually has people so wild at the stuff they actually did. You don't notice the hole under the baseboard. You don't notice the pipes in the garage have holes in them, or that the hot water heater is 50 years old. Like, so when it comes to shame, none of those people more than likely spoke up because they're ashamed. And not to mention the shame of filing lawsuits. Lawsuits is one of the most powerful things in this country that a person can leverage in situations. For whatever odd reason, people are shamed to file lawsuits, which actually holds accountable many different entities that does things to people, families, to cities, to the environment. But yet businesses will file lawsuits like if they're filing paperwork at a dentist office. Like it's so easy for them, but for whatever reason, I always see, well, used to past tense when I was on social media, see that people would always have negative thoughts about people filing lawsuits. But lawsuits is what holds people accountable. If you look at every big organization that you may shop with, if you can track huge changes that they made to rules, to different things, to structures of buildings, to different things like that, you can connect a lawsuit to that. You can always find a lawsuit that happened within a year or within a few years or sometimes within weeks that made them do that. That's why most like office spaces have so many rules. It's not because of the structure, it's because they don't want to get sued. And if they have those rules and those behaviors take place and a lawsuit ensues, the rules will protect them to say that, hey, we were against this from the beginning and this person breached the rule. That's why we, uh, I was about to say exterminated, terminated them. So the same scam in a different costume. Scams are not random. They are actually rehearsed. Coachella packages. Oh, sorry, y'all. Pardon my air fryer. I promise it's not a smoke detector. Coachella packages, festival trips, fake homes, work from home jobs that somehow pay more than surgeons, crypto millionaires who just want to help you win, different costumes, same script. Desire, urgency, trust, payment, disappearance. That's it. That's literally the whole movie. That's the way it goes, but it they do it in different manners. Like with the Coachella packages, the way that they would do the desire urgency is that they know everyone desires to go to Coachella. The urgency is that the weekend is coming up. Hurry up and buy these tickets. The trust is that they use whatever leverage they have, screenshots, fake social media posts, AI accounts to build trust. But a lot of the times with urgency is like that's why people love bomb. That's why bad jobs hire so quickly. Those jobs that hire you on the first interview, you get there and you see why. Because with urgency, it doesn't allow the time for trust to develop. Like say for instance, if you and I were coworkers, if we work together every day, that means that I can't give you an excuse as to why you should give me a ride home to your house or different things like that because you know that you work with me and you know that okay, the fact that this person is rushing me in an environment where time would have given us time to build that friendship, I don't trust them versus during a sale or during well basically sales or sermons or just certain things where you're there for a limited time, that person love bombs, but they're able to justify it with the fact that they care about you so much or whatever the situation is that have you in front of the scammer. They try to use that situation and the passion to pretend like I'm so passionate about this because I'm here to help you. And that also gives you the false sense that, oh, this person is definitely going to help me because they see how in the world we live in, and especially with social media, people are lonely out there. There are lonely people out there. There are people that feel unwanted. There are people that feel like no one is there for them. There are people that feel like they can't count on anyone. So scammers fill that void. They also know that whatever they're trying to scam you out of, depending on the product, that product is your release from the loneliness of your life, or if it's an event, it's the fear of missing out that's going to fuel you to go there, especially if you see if the concert is currently going on in other cities and it's making its way and that hype is building it up even more, they really go through and then they'll even leverage social media to get to you or just whatever method of communication you use. Section 2 is your brain wasn't built for this. You didn't get tricked, you got triggered because your brain isn't designed to slow down when something doesn't feel right. It speeds up, and scammers know that. They don't need to outsmart you, they just need to outpace your logic. Yes, they do. And that's also why typically in environments where people are not fully sober, which could be any type of legal substance or, partially illegal, that's where people get scammed a lot as well. Or if you're in tourist cities, people know that tourists don't know anything about the city. And they bet on the fact that the average person doesn't even do research about pretty much nothing. You see so many people that will know they're going on a trip for months, sometimes even a year and some change, and they'll start asking people what restaurants they should eat at the day of that they get out there, instead of just slowly keeping a eye on the city. Like for me, whenever I travel in the past, I've always temporarily followed when I had social media, and then post social media life, subscribe to YouTube to the cities that I was going to, just to keep an eye and have a familiarity with it. Because when you go to a city not knowing anything, someone can tell you anything, and there's nothing that you can compare it to. Now, you may be an insightful person who can quickly pull out your phone and attempt some type of search to verify such facts. But in a lot of situations, especially like for people who like to be on that Mary J. Blige, aka Mary Joanna, Joanna man, um, they get got a lot in the Bourbon area. Like, but y'all hold out hope they're actually gonna open a dispensary out there on July. And also too, sometimes I may smooth out my speaking when I'm talking because I have braces, and the shifting of my teeth is, I have to adjust to it, because when we speak, it's based off the way our teeth have been set up for however long. So so no. Anyways, and now that they have the dispensary coming, people can at least not get scammed, because the medicinal card is free and you can do it online or over the phone. So no one should be charging you for that. And the people do not have drive up or to go orders to where somebody should be on the corner telling you that they got something from there. Like, and a lot of the times they'll tell people that they're selling stuff and it might be parsley or something like that. And that's in a lot of tourist areas, because scams prey on unawareness. That's why it's, you don't have to feel like you're a genius at everything. The truly intelligent people know that they don't know everything, and that's why they're always so skilled at finding the answer, because that's what they've done their life. Anytime they had a question, they found the answer. Especially if you're intelligent and your parents are not, unfortunately, and you're in an environment of people that are not, unfortunately, because intelligence is kind of rare among us. As much as people think that everyone isn't slow, the survey says otherwise, and that's not even a bad thing, because you're still alive. So, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to live. But when it comes to intelligent people, they had no choice but to find the answer on their own, because they wasn't going to get it from people around them, or adults typically who don't know how to answer questions. They react emotionally or shush you, or get a little bit raw, like a dungeon dragon. But dragons get slayed. So when it comes to the red flags that people sometimes negotiate with, and I'm just going through the slides because I be having buku slides and don't even be using them, so I be wanting y'all to see, because these stock images, I tried to select them and slightly intentionally, because it is a bucket of them, to not just have a bunch of slop in here. Like, I'm big on still keeping real pictures and stuff, but also not going against the copyright law, because in case you guys did not know, if you read an article or certain things online, like depending on what resource it is, there's copyright laws for it, and it's a particular way you have to present it if it's going to be in a video. But if you present it in its entirety, that's considered copying it in its entirety. But it gets deeper as well. That's a summary. So if you're interested, I could make a video about that, which would be boring as hell, but I'm down for it. Okay, so the red flags people negotiate with. We need to talk honestly. People don't miss red flags. They just explain them away. This feels off, but maybe it's just me. It's a really good deal though. they seem nice. That's not logic. That's emotional investment trying to protect itself. Not to mention, to add to that, that's the funny part about writing it out because I still end up adding to it anyway. But it's not necessarily explaining it away. It kind of goes back to how I mentioned shame and ego and those different inner elements of people. When it comes to deals like that, if a person feels like they can't win, that's the people who typically are the easiest to scam because what scammers do is they've scammed so many people, and typically scammers are not born, they're created. So these people have been doing this since childhood, but within childhood it may have accidentally been taught to them, because I know there are people who teach their children to lie. Like it'll be men or women that'll teach their children to go up to other adults and pretend that they're hungry to get money from them, but it's actually for the adult in the situation. So that's why scammers are so charismatic, because they literally been practicing this their whole life. And even with the understanding of maybe they were innocent when they found it out, that's something that we can understand, but they are currently an adult now and should be handled as such. But it also is something to learn in the future for people who may do that now. Like if you're using your children to scam people, when they get old enough, teach them that, okay, this was something we did here. It's wrong. So please don't make that your whole personality, because that is what ends up happening. Like that's why you typically see when people have crimes and the family is involved, the family members typically have the same crimes, because it's DNA, but it's also repetition and environmental. And so when it comes to people feeling like they can't win in life, the scammer is going to milk that. They're going to milk it like a cow. Like we think cows are the only thing getting milked, and new mothers breastfeeding is the only thing getting milked. No, baby. Like scammers milk people with hopes and dreams. Like I can think of so many different scams of everyday things. A person outside the grocery store scamming, pretending that if you give them half of your total, that you could use their card, and then when you go outside, the person gone. Or at a hotel, a person pretending that they can get you half the hotel rate, but you got to do this, and this. And a person who really, really needs to save money probably would have had no money for food or gas at the real price, but now the new price is going to give them that savings. Scam them. People at the gas station, a person who probably put $5 in their tank all of the time, and it's a hurricane evacuation. A scammer is going to be there saying that if you give me some money, I'll let you fill his gas up. Or on the reverse side, a person pretending to put your pump back for you, and they purposely don't put it on the right way, and then when you leave, they sell other people the remaining gas, and then you wonder why you get a $3,000 gas station charge. So scams come in so many different ways, but it's always on in your vulnerable moments. And it's not to say that it's like mosquitoes where every time you go outside it's just going to attach itself to you, because it's no way possible that we could fortify every weakness we have. How But also too, like when it comes to things we partake in, that's one thing we can change. We can change that. We can also have an understanding that maybe some things are is not the time for us. And also too, for the younger people, something that y'all have now that us old hoes didn't have in the 90s is that y'all can watch the concerts at any time. So yes, you may not be there physically, but you can still see it from the same angle as if you were. Because as someone who has went to a lot of concerts in a small period of time, I quickly saw that unless the concert is one of those stand concerts where everyone knows all the lyrics and you could feel the energy because everyone's in sync, and humans, when that's why even certain scriptures say about it, when two or more come together. When we all come around each other, and if we sing in the same thing, it actually unites us for that one moment. But some concerts are not like that. Like when it comes to Coachella, y'all saw how chaotic that was. They probably had people closer to the stage singing lyrics and stuff like that. Maybe for Justin Bieber, he might have gave them moments. But in between all of that, you living in the forest, you living out the Hunger Games, Taylor's version. Like it's a lot going on just to to where that moment ain't even that special anymore, to be honest. Like, for concerts, I think that for younger people, y'all gonna realize this later. Start paying attention to those smaller artists in your city. Those are gonna be the intimate events that you're gonna have the most memories from. And you just never know. Like, some of us are old enough to remember when Bruno Mars was performing at small venues and his tickets were reasonable and were able to be comfortable. And those are the people that really get the experience. When you go to those big concert events, it'd be more panic than anything. And God forbid you ever be at a concert that have an incident that happened, because we never know. It always be the most random stuff, buildings collapsing or somebody was speeding, just different things like that. So just don't risk your safety for it, because these places, even though y'all appreciate the people y'all supporting, y'all putting your own lives in danger. Like, the fact that these people be having roads shut down because it's so packed, traffic, people speeding, people being robbed, cars being broken into, it's not worth it. Like, it's not worth it. That's the dedication that some of us have to celebrities, is the same way that religious people have to religion, which that's going to be a video in the future anyway. So next section is how you pay equals how you recover. And if you send money through Zelle, Cash App, crypto, or gift cards, you didn't make a purchase, you made a donation. If you can't reverse it, you shouldn't send it. And honestly, that's not even easy all of the time, because pretty much scammers prey on the fact that people between each other use Zelle, Cash App, and sometimes crypto. Hey, get how you live. But a lot of people use Zelle, Cash App, and even businesses. There are businesses, smaller businesses, that you go in and they have the QR code at the register. So it's already ingrained in people that it's a normal thing, versus maybe 10 years ago when a person would say Cash App something, that would be a red flag, because not that many people had it. But people prey on the commonality of it. I even know actual suit and tie businesses that accept Zelle payments and things like that. So that's something to keep in mind, that when you are using it, like, to how whenever you're navigating your phone or the internet and you press something and then they give you a box that tell you blah 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 blah, yes or no, or okay or cancel. Whenever someone is asking you to Zelle, Cash App, or do anything that's not fully protected, always go into detective mode. Use that as your smoke detector beep. I know you may not experience it in your home, because I don't either, but if you've seen enough content on YouTube, you see that there's a lot of beeping in the background. So just imagine that whenever someone is asking you to send money through something. Zelle and Cash App should only be for people that you can sue, or people that you can make turn them knuckles blue if they play with you about money. So Sue or Blue are the only two people that you should be able to send Zelle and Cash App to. If you send Zelle and Cash App to an actual business, unless they're gonna close the next day and be a completely empty office space, you can sue them. And you also have a LLC and all kind of different things that you can connect them to. But when it comes to Zelle or Cash App to that stranger, like, a lot of people were getting got by actual kids in ATL, Georgia. What do we do for you? When they were paying for water, and then the children would change the total and things like that. So it's a lot of scams, and then that's the worst scam, because whenever person being generous, that's probably the person who is the most vulnerable, because they see that person they're being generous towards as vulnerable, and they think that they're being the protector in the situation, and in the from a kind heart. And that's what the brain is there for. Because if humans only had hearts, we would not have lasted this long. Like, hearts are very loving. And unfortunately, some people's are tainted. So theirs is pumping out tar and oil and all kinds of other substances that's not conducive to actual love. But for the people who are able to give generosity to strangers, their heart is there, and it's like their logic kind of goes out the window due to that. And that's not a bad thing. It's not a good thing either. It's not something that when we identify traits in people, that it means anything. It's just identifying a trait and how it can impact different situations. And that's more logic, like it intellectual thinking kind of stuff, you know. The system feeds the scams. Is that a subtitle? Because it's supposed to be you actually have rights. Oh, yeah, that's never mind. You can report scams through the Federal Trade Commission, file complaints with the Better Business Bureau. You can dispute charges, you can take legal action, but most people don't because they feel embarrassed. I wear a crown because I will take action. I will take action because whatever system you navigating in, you need to learn that system like if you built it yourself. You need to get the blueprint and study it like the back of your hand. And when it comes to anything related to me and entities, businesses, services, employment, living, anything that is a business that I gotta go to, even as big as small as a gas station, as big as an airport, I guess. I will always use the Federal Trade Commission, the Better Business Bureau. Dispute charges, I usually the situations usually be too big for that. It'd be bigger than that, baby. Charges mean that the money I spent is where the buck stopped. And no, 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 the buck don't stop there. The buck is up there in the air. Shout out to the atmosphere. Like you can take legal action. Haha. Baby, when some stuff in, I have some story time for y'all. That's all I'm gonna say. That's all I'm gonna say. But just know I don't play at all. And the reason why I don't play is because I don't emotionally react in these situations. I take a step back. Now, if it's a big enough situation that may be overwhelming, which can trigger an unwanted emotional response, that breathing switch up real quick. I love box breathing. I love the $5 box and box breathing. So from there, I immediately think about what just happened or what was happening. But typically with me, unfortunately, I already be seeing where it's going, honestly. And but when it comes to things like that, you can't be aware. When you aware, like I learned that in the first half of my life, always telling people what I knew, they gaslight you. They call you crazy. They make you look crazy to other people. But then in the end, when they succeed, everyone sees that you were right. But one thing about those situations, when people label you crazy and then you end up being right, those people don't erase that. They don't try to fix that. They just leave it at that. And then after a while, they actually start to feel uncomfortable around you because they realize that you see through people. And it's not even that you see through people, they don't like you don't realize if you're young enough that you've emotionally regulated adults in your earlier environment. So what you're seeing is that their actions are not matching their words, are not matching their body language. People telling you they love you, but you're physically seeing their micro expressions change to negative things. You're seeing things, you're walking past mirrors and they behind you and you noticing that. You're just seeing different things. So when it comes to awareness, I typically don't share that in situations. So when I've had situations that were they thought was a scam, like they thought they were gonna get off one off on me. They thought they had a teddy bear, and then they quickly realized I'm a grizzly. Like no, no, nothing, nothing at all. I don't play those games because with them they're so obvious, especially when they think you don't know stuff. That's why big playing dumb is a superpower. When you know how to play dumb, you can see how far people gonna lie. Because if a person thinks you know zero about something, them lies gonna fly like Southwest. Like they really gonna fly. And so that's when you know it's deceptive. But when a person knows that you're aware of stuff, or like if you're a person who when you meet new people, you immediately want to show them that you're a subject matter expert of whatever the discussion is, that's either gonna make them try harder or they gonna do something to sabotage you to weaken you. Like, so it's best to just not let people know what you know. And the system that feeds the scams, I just be pausing like if the video paused. I still want y'all to see them images. So let's be honest. Scarcity is manufactured. Companies like Live Nation and Ticketmaster control access, limit supply, drive urgency, so fans feel pressure, and pressure creates risk, and risk creates opportunity for scammers. Not to mention, they never trip off a lot of the resale stuff because they get money. Like they get a percentage of the resale. So when resellers scam y'all, they got money. They're getting money from that as well. So it's really not no incentive for them to stop it unless it's a lawsuit. That's why anytime you've seen lawsuits, y'all change this right after. But sometimes people don't make those connections because if the information is separate from each other, it's easier to not be thinking. That's usually noticed through research or pattern recognition. And when belief itself becomes the scam, let me pause that for a second on that image. Now let's talk about something deeper because not all scams. Why is oh I forgot to paste that one. That's funny. Anyways, I froze again in real life. Okay, so some look like faith, healing, motivation, leveling up, finding your purpose. And that's where it gets dangerous because when belief is involved, logic steps back a whole lot, actually. There are people using religion not to guide, but to extract, using spirituality not to heal, but to control, using motivation not to uplift, but to build dependency. You ever notice how some influencers always have the answer, always speak with certainty, always need your support, always make you feel like you're almost there? That's not inspiration, that's conditioning. And here's the uncomfortable truth: even following certain accounts can be a part of the scam because attention is currency. Attention is currency. Like it really is currency. Damn, they put. I did not. I saw that it was a church, but I did not realize who that was in there. That's funny. But attention is definitely currency. That is why when you feel negatively about different online entities going to their profiles and sharing that only boosts their power because infamous is just as powerful as famous. Infamous people still make moves in this world around us. And sometimes it's publicly, and sometimes it may be them doing things behind the scenes and you're not aware. So the best way to get rid of people is just not to give them any attention at all. When you remember somebody that was famous or something that you thought about a long time ago, the reason why you forgot about it is because everyone else did as well. If people were still talking about it, you would still be thinking about it. We can look at so many different former musicians who have kept consistent relevancy over the years to where every generation currently is aware of who they are, or every active social media generation is currently aware of who they are or has access to know who they are or have seen them even if they didn't know who they are, because of the fact that people still talk about them. Whenever people get in the news for bad stuff, you always see them end up on a reality show. And sometimes the reality show can flip the narrative to where regain fame with a different type of audience to where their fame level is increased, but it's because everyone kept them relevant. You can look at all of those different streamers that people discuss negatively, but the constant discussion of them is what keeps them alive, that keeps people looking at them. Because if a person didn't know who they were, your mention of them or mention of the story of them now piques the curiosity of a person. So the best way to combat someone or something you do not like is to ignore it when it comes to online. Now when it comes to reality, as far as change, you have to use the power of whatever system that is. If it's a legal issue you have to use the legal system to fix that issue. Now you can connect that with social media and leverage that and sometimes use that as a pressure point, but that's strategically done. That's not accidentally done. That never happens by accident. It's always a strategy to that. Someone is strategizing. Maybe you may not be aware, but it's strategy to those types of situations. But when it's just situations where people think that them all getting on someone's page is going to stop them, that actually makes them more powerful. And emotional loyalty is the highest form of profit. So when beliefs are used against you, it makes you have a connection with them as if it's a part of your own body, to where if a person tries to warn you against it or speak negatively of it, you'll defend it like if you're defending your own person. And this is why it is so hard to help people when it comes to scams, because scammers don't just take money, they build relationship, fake ones, like the dating ones. They talk to you, respond to you, validate you, encourage you. Also, too, they are people who play the long game. So scams are not always immediate. There are people who play the long game. And when it comes to the identification of bad actors of different categories, it is not for panic. Do not panic when you hear these things. This is just me introducing you to the world that was hidden from you, because the stats of the type of negative people that are in the world are in the millions, as far as people a part of different groups that have done different things that have, so it's a lot of people around you. It's just to get it in people's mind that we're not in Disneyland. Like, people treat the world like Disneyland. Like, when you're dating, every person you date is Prince Charming, or the possibility of Prince Charming, versus the possible. It's actually more likely that you could come across a serial killer than you would Prince Charming. But that's when you look at it from a Disneyland aspect. But if you look at it from a realistic aspect, the subtle signs that those bad actors benefit from the average person not being aware of, the average Disneyland person that believes that the world is Disney World, you avoid those people. Those people will reject you. This is from personal experience. I have encountered a lot of people that have had very suspect motives and went on to prove me right. The few times I verbalized it, people remember me years later, remembering that I predicted that exact thing. Because when you pick apart bad actors, you can see what they're doing, because they always overcompensate. So whatever they're showing outward, the intention is actually the inverse on the inside. And that's not always the equation for everything. It's a case by case basis. But they talk to you, they respond to you. And back to the long game thing. So when it comes to the long game, people can be introduced as far as being a coworker. So that's a place of trust, typically for some people, especially if it's those everybody here is family type environments. They force people to feel like you need to trust your coworkers, or if it's your neighbor, or if it's someone who gets in a relationship with you. It could be a person who marry you, but the whole time they're playing the long game, because whatever the resource is worth so much to them that they will play whatever role, because these are real life actors. That's why they call bad actors, because they're real life actors. Like, people, we think that movie acting is the only acting. There are people in real life who can really act. They can really act, but the only thing about it, a lot of them don't master micro expressions. Micro expressions can give a lot of bad actors away if paid attention to, or certain things like when bad actors they use some of them, not all of them. Don't treat this like the DL trend, where everybody who tell bad jokes that's disrespectful is immediately gonna try to scam you or play the long game. But one symptom of their bad acting for some of them can be the people who make weird comments, and then when you react, they immediately try to tell you it's a joke, and then immediately after they say it's a joke, it's supposed to be an extinguisher to a flame that you're supposed to just fizzle and not mention it no more. That's one symptom. Or like on social media, some of the people could see that you friendly. Because for me, my social media persona, when I had one before it was all deleted, rest in peace, was very friendly. But for me, I was never naive. Never. Never, ever, 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 ever. But again, I will always play dumb, because for me, I love it. I actually find it entertaining to see people, to see manipulators in their own habitat. It's kind of like if you ever lived in a house and you had a bee nest above your window outside, and it can't get to you, so you just watch the bees and see how they move and stuff like that. Or like the people who used to have ant farms. I never had one, because I always had nightmares that if I had one, it would fall and break in the middle of the night, and you know how that would end. So no. But yeah, the way they examine the ants from afar, that's really similar to to how I look at when people are trying to get one over. And on social media, I found that people typically would be beggars, like serial beggars. And if you follow them long enough, you will see that every few months they have a GoFundMe, every few months they scamming. But what they do is, in the meantime, between scams, they're bombing you. Like they're really trying to hijack your friendship and they're praising everything. They're, on social media, people like likes and comments telling them stuff, especially when it feels like they're not gonna get any. They prey on those things. So that's a place where people play the long game. Or when it comes to relationships, it could be a person that see that you feel unwanted, man or woman, could feel like you are unwanted because of whatever your predisposition is, and they'll manipulate that and pretend like they're here and they see through that and they love you throughout that. But the whole time they may have been trying to get your life insurance policy. They may have been trying to rob somebody in your family. Maybe somebody in your family is important and they found you because with the internet, y'all have so much of y'all people on there. They really do have people out there. Because again, from you always playing dumb, I have been in rooms where people have said some wild things because either they thought I had music on, or they thought I wasn't paying attention, or they thought I didn't speak another language. Baby, when I tell you the long game is real. So when it comes to the scam awareness, it's not just about the bashing thing like, ah, ha, ha, y'all went to Coachella, ah, ha, ha, you went to Essence Festival. It's not that at all, baby, at all. And if you made it this far, shout out to you. But like, scams run deep. They run deep because some of us are still in a scam. There are things that we may not find out until later on in life that were a scam. But at least for the many ones, are the ones that could cripple our current journey, those are the ones that really are 911. Someone please call 911 in my Wild Clip Joy voice. Tell him I just got shot down and the bullets in my heart and it pierced me through my soul. I'll say for real another time. Anyways, so yeah, like it runs very deep. All of these things, all of the different little TikTok words y'all be using now that used to have meaning, but when words get overused, it kind of waters it down. Because if you tell somebody you gaslighting them, it ain't gonna hit like it would have hit 10 years ago. And so when someone tries to warn you, you defend the scammer because in your mind, they wouldn't do that to me. That's not stupidity, that's emotional attachment. And another thing, the exception, a lot of people unknowingly, anything I feel like anything unknowingly is okay for to a certain extent. Kind of like if I gave you a few inches, but don't take the mile type stuff. Like with unknowingly doing stuff, it doesn't always mean ill intent. But if it becomes a recurrent thing where people are informing you of it and you still refuse to acknowledge that the possibility that it could be true, then that's a little bit of the oblivion of obliviousness, you know. But when it comes to like emotional the emotional attachment of it all, a lot of people feel like that can't be them. Like that's why whenever you see people comment about celebrities but then you know that they're going through that personally in their own life, it's because for some reason they feel like they're above the other people to where they don't even realize they're going through the exact situation, or they'll move the goalpost so that their situation is not as bad as the other person. Them kind of people that you see do that, they're super prone to scams because that scammer is gonna prey on that too and buck their head up and may even tell them, yeah, your friend's hating. Because a lot of people be slow enough to tell the scammers that they think they're scamming them. And that's the craziest thing you can do, especially if you're still gonna go through with it, because the person is really gonna be laughing at you because and then the aftermath. The real damage isn't the money, it's the silence. It's the shame. It's the replaying of every decision and choosing not to tell anyone because you don't want to feel judged. Which this happens every time. Everything we see on social media that has been exposed where multiple people have been experienced in the same thing, you're always gonna have people that's the story you never heard. Want to know why? Because those people look online and check the temperature first. And the way y'all drag them people in comments for everything, which on the internet, people get dragged even for being harmed. Like if the person got harmed the wrong way, the internet gonna say, well, you should have held the door 10 seconds longer. So when he punched you, it would have hit the glass first. So it's your fault. Like people really do not play online with no empathy. Like it's but I know that that's because it's projection of their inner pain, and it's a lot of hurting people out there. That's why it's so easy for anybody with money to manipulate mass people. Because first of all, money is something that a lot of people chase to the point of forgetting about all of the other beauty in life, including healthy vitamin levels. But also too, the fact that the people pretend that they care about them. They tell I love you to random people and they don't mean it because you never see no action. They only love you when you're in front of them spending your money. So, and then some of them do kink shaming because they know that even though you may feel like, oh, this person is so rude, I don't see how they have fans. They have people out there that are literal gluttons for punishment. Dominatrix is not a fiction thing. That's real. There are really people out there in the world that like to be tortured in any method, like through disrespect, through like so y'all have to really not necessarily wake up to the fact that if you dream for anything, you're never gonna get that in the realistic world because dreams are like all of that stuff, baby. That's cartoons. Unless you're a cartoon artist, that's you can draw a dream, but nah. So when it comes to the world around us, it's not to the point of panic, nihilism. Is no point of living because it's just such a dark world. It's not dark or light. It could be. It's not even equal. It depends on where you are, literally. Like, and that's why media is so destructive because media can impact people no matter where they are. If you get enough of media, you're going to believe the world is based off of what the news tells you. Most of the people I see online don't have local things to add to the negativity of the things that they see online. I don't know anyone out here who has bombs going off or anything like that, or mass people going missing to the point to where they can't understand what the news is saying without making it make them panicky because it'll be people that have a good job, a good home, and now that they just saw the news, they driving crazy out there parking lot, they having attitudes with people in the store, or they yelling at the cashier because she voted for somebody because of something they saw on the news. When if you would have erased that moment and they would have never knew about any of that information, that person would have been having a good day. So it's like, and it's because the reason why the news make people panic so much is because y'all have not accepted the fact that all of the stuff you see on the news every day, like it's very few things that are new to the cycle of society. All of the stuff you see that gets you upset has been happening, and you could connect it to somewhere in history that is similar to now. And people in the present always think that they're more aware than the people in the past while still displaying the same behaviors. If you're a victim of scamming, or if you know someone that's a victim of scamming, or if you are a scammer, you probably know someone else who is as well. Especially in the generation above you. You know someone who is doing exactly what you did, it's just in a different way. Sometimes the exact same way. They got people who families be experiencing crimes at the same place. A person be scammed at the same Walmart their mama got scammed at, or somebody was robbed at the same place their uncle got robbed. Like history repeats itself when you don't know it. That's why, like, when you play a video game for the gamers out there, if the video game is based off the map is based off of only where you've been and the rest of the map is foggy, are you gonna keep going in circles to the places you've been already? No, because you're gonna end up repeating the parts in the game. You gotta go to the new parts to see the new things, to see the whole map. Same thing with life, pretty much. It's that simple, someone would say, but it's not because I don't believe that common sense is common. I don't think people are disrespectfully idiots. I just think that The amount of things people feel like they're aware about, they're not. Like most people don't have average knowledge on most of the things in their life. Most people don't even know how to change the settings on their cell phone. When it comes to all cell phone users, not saying a particular generation or anything, but majority of cell phone users do not know that. Majority of the people who have apps on their phone don't even know some of those apps have already told you straight up in the terms and conditions that baby, your camera about to be on all day long. And it won't be until somebody say it on the news. And then when the people say it on the news, now they're gonna panic and feel like, oh my God, I've been hacked my whole life. But a lot of the information be dead in our face. It's just it's the understanding that we don't know. And to be more receptive when someone is trying to tell us, especially if the person is not asking for anything in return, or if the person does not have an ulterior motive against what they're speaking against. Like if someone was to call someone a scammer fraudulently to try to mess up their business, you know, like, or if a person who used to be friends with them for 25 years suddenly tell you that they've been scamming people for 25 years. Those types of situations you have to question because why now? But it's also question and answer. A lot of people don't have a question and answer structured brain because you're only structured to answer and say. You don't ask questions. You know, you assume. You see someone wearing something, you assume that they're this kind of person. You assume that they got it from here. If you see someone wearing sports gear, you assume they're a fan of that person. They could have just went to a Goodwill store and had a 50-cent sale, and or somebody could have gave them clothes because they was naked before you seen them. But you assume that they're a sports person. If you see a person with a vehicle, you assume if it's an older car that they're poor and broke. You assume because it's a brand new vehicle that they're wealthy. And we see that sometimes it could be accurate, sometimes it could be the opposite. You just never know. But people don't ask questions. For me, my I never let myself assume things. When I speak on things, it's always past tense because I saw it. I witnessed it. And in a lot of situations, if I was at ground zero, I ask questions. Anyone who ever met me will tell you if I was engaging in whatever the activity was going on and trying to figure stuff out, I was asking questions. I've never been in any situation that I was trying to navigate and no question was asked. If I'm in oh, I didn't even know it didn't edit back to the stage. I don't let me go back. This is gonna be the video I have to edit. I try to do everything in my power not to edit. Ooh, but dang, it started all the way from the beginning again. Started from the beginning, now we here. Look, these slides, I'm done with the slides. You were not stupid, you were studied, you were analyzed, you were targeted. Scammers practice this, refine this, perfect this. So don't sit in shame. Why people post instead of report? Posting gives you validation. Reporting requires energy. And when you're drained, validation feels easier than justice. But one heals your ego, the other protects your future. Also, too, the repetitive cycle of thinking about one particular thing that you need to do over and over and over again tends to exert similar energy to you actually doing it, especially when you start speaking on it to other people. Your brain actually registers that you've done it already. So that is why once you speak about something to too many people, it's almost impossible for you to do it because your brain literally checked it off as something done. Like when you're walking through your home or wherever rest or wherever you navigate on a daily basis. If you know a light is turned off and you see that it's dark, you're not going to try to check the light switch to make sure it's off. Or if you see that your car is locked and your windows are up, you're not about to double check and make sure that is a thing. Versus if you left your house on autopilot and you thought you left the stove on, you're going to panic to check because there's uncertainty there. So when it comes to, let me see. Yeah, when it comes to posting and talking about it so much, your brain considers it done. Not to mention, when it comes to calling people, some people have telephone anxiety, or some people, when they think about something tragic that happened to them, each time they're speaking on it, the emotional side kicks in. So it's harder to actually speak and make sense. And that's why when people tell stories, their brain will flash them back in the moment and they'll start speaking as if they're in the moment, and the person listening is not in the moment to know the exact scene. So they're like, what are you looking at? Or what is this? So you have to ask more questions. That's why mental health is important. Like, just to be aware of it. Even if you don't agree with psychology, even if you don't agree with psychology medication, at least be aware of what possibly could be your experience, what possibly your parents could have had, because you have to graduate to be able to diagnose people, but you can speculate and navigate from there if you're not willing to do it. But if you are willing to figure out what's going on, that will make your life so much easier. And once you understand psychology, the basics of it, and always be willing to read on whatever is in front of you. If you see someone and you believe that is bipolar symptoms, you can read about that and in that moment and learn more things in that moment for future reference, versus feeling like you have to have a dictionary in your head of each thing. But at least be aware of it so you know that you, because if you have something that you don't know, people can prey on that. Like, especially if the person picked up the possibility that you may have it, so then they start using the triggers that may work on those types of people, or the weaknesses that usually are the weaknesses for those types of people. Like for narcissism, their images is usually supposed to be their weakness. Like they really care about how they are viewed by the world and things like that, allegedly. Allegedly, like if narcissism gonna sue me. So that's why it's important to be aware. Like, awareness, I probably have said that word 100,000 times between all of the videos I've made within the last whatever period of time I've been making these videos. And that's why it's best to try to not always quickly share it with the internet, especially because with the internet, a lot of times people are incriminating themselves, especially if, let's say, you want to tell the internet you were scammed, but then you also admit that you attacked the scammer. That part where you admitted to attacking them can be used for assault charges, because yes, you were scammed, but responding immediately with violence is street ethics. That is not legal ethics. So the legal system will not protect you if you physically harm someone for scamming you, because those two were not the same thing. That can't be justified as self-defense. That is why it's best for people to marinate posts. I get that everyone wants to be six on your side and have breaking news, but give it time, think it over, Google certain things, and is this legal, is that legal? And not to mention, like, the final closing is that scammers don't need you to be dumb, they just need you to believe in the deal, believe in the person, believe in the responsibility. As long as humans believe, there will always be someone ready to profit from it. But now you see it. I know you see it, the patterns, the pressure, the manipulation. And once you see it, you done unsee it. And once you see it, it is not your job to be a guiding light to everyone in your life. You can try. I always give people one try of enlightenment. And I always try to do it in the most nice way, in the most formal way, not manipulative or seductive, but in a way where I am not triggering their defenses to where they're going to think I'm attacking them. But typically, depending on what angle the scam is coming from, it almost never works. That is why it is easier if you are around people who are growing you have more hope for longevity with you and the people that are growing. They may not grow the same direction you grow. They may not grow in the same areas you're growing in, but if they're growing, that means that their mind is open to change and for growth. When you are around people who don't heed to warnings, who regularly have situations in the same category, those types of people have some form of arrested development, some form. It may not be the full package, the starter pack, but it may be a certain area, a certain subsection. Those people are going to weigh you down over time because those people will always want your first aid, but they will never follow the warnings, the different guardrails that you set up to prevent injury. So if you're thinking long term about life, you can only have people around that flow the way you're going. If you're around people who are always putting themselves in danger and you always having to worry about them, if it's not a child of yours or something to where you are responsible for their well-being, like if you're not their caretaker in some form, you have to find a way to detox from these people because a lot of the times people think that they've done everything and why can't I get this one thing? Why can't I get that one thing? The answer is always something that you least expect or something that you knew but you lied to yourself about it or you tried to justify it. And even you may have even had people around you tell you about these people or this situation or this environment, and you were in denial or you gave them a time frame saying this is only going to be for a little while longer, or I'm only going to be their friend until they go to college, or I'm just being cool with her until I move out, or I'm just working this job until I get a degree. Those things be the parking brake on your life. If you have a vehicle and if you've ever accidentally left your parking brake on and tried to drive off, you didn't drive off. Or if you did, whew, that transmission, baby. So, you know, that is what some situations can be. So, when it comes to the journey of awareness, the journey does not stop. The journey is like the dentist. You go as long as you have teeth, which is, recommended. That's the journey of life. It doesn't stop until you stop living. So just understand that the basics of the wild is what I'm trying to get people to understand. At least so that people won't be so naive in things that they do. Like trusting the fact that their children can ride bikes down the street alone. When if you look at the SO registry in any neighborhood and see how many people and how many of them are repeat and how many of them actually did with children, which those people, that's a preference. That ain't changing. There's no amount of jail time that stops a creep from being a creep. If jail time healed creeps, all of the registered creeps would not be, they wouldn't even have a section for real fencing or real fencing. Real fencing could be a word for in Louisiana after hurricane season when people fences fall down. That's real fencing. But no, like seriously, and that's just that's one category. It just amazes me how naive we still have people. Even in the year of 2026, you still have people leaving their car unlocked at the gas station. As many cars that went home to glory, some with people in them, because of people leaving cars unlocked at gas stations. Or every year during the summer, we have the overheating thing. People leaving kids in the car, and like the it only takes probably I'll say 30 seconds max to check your car, or 30 seconds max to check and make sure that you don't have any valuables on the seat. But people rush those split seconds to get to something a split second earlier, only to still have to wait. So it's like the rushing. But that is it for this video because it could go into something else. And yeah, let's see. I have to maximize the screen to end it. Well, first let me show the rest of these things because I didn't sit up there and paste all these slides for nothing. Okay, there we go. Thank y'all. Be safe.
Like, comment, and subscribe to J New Orleans.